Welcome everyone to Blue Abroad. The team's leg dog is running a couple of minutes late, but you are here with the lovely Pom, who is often like Jason Derulo riding solo. But welcome everyone. Big game coming up, and as always, I am joined by probably the best looking man in fantasy football, Leg Dog.
What's going on for me? How are you?
Hey, you're back.
I am. I'm back. Literally just ran off the plane to jump on the show and talk some blues with you, mate.
Mate, and I'm glad to have you here. You're looking very suave, if I must say so myself.
Well, you got to look good when you're traversing the country, shaking hands and kissing babies.
Oh, well, that's thrown me, that. Well, I mean, obviously, we're here for the team's big, interesting selection because Vossi has said Young returns and also Stocker. So, by that, there will be another out from the team that did beat GWS. Everyone in the audience and you, Let Dog, who do you think comes out for Stocker?
Well, I think, obviously, Stocker probably plays Williams' role, so I'm probably looking at who's coming in for, or who's coming out for Lewis Young. Is it Kemp? He wasn't super impressive, but maybe his versatility, maybe exposing him to the senior side's a positive. I'm sure without checking the comments, there's going to be a lot of people in there talking about Lockie Plowman, but he was bloody good against GWS. So I would hate to see him come out of the side, especially against Sydney, who have a pretty dangerous forward line, Pom. So I'm excited to see what the change will be. Do you have any inkling yourself?
I have no inside mail, but if I was going to put money on it, I would say Kent comes out and Young comes in. I think there's enough height down the back with Young and Wheater in, particularly the combination they've done, and Plowman can take the third tall, which he did very well last week. And I think they've still got enough energy and ball movement with Stocker there to hit them on the counter, which has been the staple of what Voss has built. Any other changes, you guys and girls in the audience? As Dane says, I'm here with Lech Bronson. Clever.
That's very good. Off the top of my head, like no one, and maybe I'm remembering the game wrong, but I don't remember anyone standing out as needing to come out of that side, and I haven't. It's hard when you can't watch the reserves because they're not playing. But obviously, there's going to be 1,000 comments, Paul, about where's Dow, why isn't Dow in the team, and I would still maintain that unless you're going to play him at fullback, there's not a spot for him.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're a replacement when you're ill. Paolo and me were discussing. He's gone Darwin for Carroll, Young for Kemp, Stocker for Williams. I don't mind that. My thoughts at the moment. These are Pom's bold ones to watch, right? So we've got Kemp for Young, we've got Williams for Stocker. I've also pandered the idea. I didn't mind Jack Carroll's game last week, but there is rumours that he was sore. I thought his running off the ball was impeccable, but I can see him coming from down. And here's Pom's other smoky. I wonder if they go Newman out, Boyd or Cottrell in, just purely because that extra rotation. I could even see Noons making way, my boy, for Cottrell. Just that little bit of overlap run, which has hurt Sydney quite a few times this year. Them two games they lost in the middle period before they beat Essendon, that was a big bugbear for them, that overlap run. If you can get that run and carry going, you're halfway beating Sydney.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I could potentially see Nunes coming out. I don't see the side moving Newman, taking Newman out, especially with Williams going down. Newman's kicking's been really good this year, and I just think that's a weapon that Vossi loves. But I can see a world where Nunes comes out and as you've said, you bring in like a Cottrell who, look, he's not a superstar, but I've been impressed by him when he's come on as the sub, and maybe he's been impressive because he's obviously been less tired than everyone else. But if there's one thing he does, it's run all day. And as you said, Sydney can be susceptible to that overlap run. And, I'd love to see, and obviously he's injured, but that's why I'd actually love to see guys like Jack Martin in the side. They can push up the ground, do the Jack Silvani role, take marks further up the ground and overlap with these wingers. It'll be interesting to see how we structure further up the ground this week, because Jay Sauce was awesome last week, but he really did have to be a target inside 50 for us without Harry Mackay. So there's a lot of interesting question marks over this one. Pom, how did you see the debutant from last week, Jesse Motlop? How did you see his game?
I really enjoyed it, and as Paolo comes in with a comment, commitment, energy, workability, knowing how to fucking defend, and knowing how to play attack. As the legend Tatey says on United TV, I thought that's what he brought, a lot of workability. I think Motlop's versatility, particularly his ability to come really deep up the ground with Durden, which against a side like Sydney, who are a kicking side, this is what they do. It's a death by 1,000 kicks. That is going to be an important thing. Carlton's facet and ability to transition the football, because there is a lot of opportunities in the way Vossi sets up against kicking sides, particularly at Marvel, 10 metres in width, a bit narrower. A lot of opportunity for that turnover and that transition game. And I think Motlop and Durden are going to be key, because they drop back and help their defence.
Yeah, that's one of the key things that we've talked about Durden since he debuted, is that you often find him like as almost the last man in defence, because he just pushes and pushes, works his way the whole way up the ground to help out his teammates. He applies a lot of really, we know him as a tackling inside 50 machine, but he does it in the defensive half when he finds himself there as well. So I'm with you. I think they're going to be key cogs to this game. I'm interested to see how we set up, if we bother to put any time into a Callum Mills, who's had an elite year so far this year. He's had a couple of down weeks when people have sat on him. So do they look at George Hewitt putting some time into him, or do they just go, our midfield is going to beat your midfield and let it run?
Mate, spot on. And Matty Boy, here, this will make it exciting for yourself, because I know that you like looking at who's coming through in the State League. McDonald confirmed out for the rest of the year, which isn't really a surprise, but it is in a way, because he went 6 weeks indefinite, 6 weeks trained indefinite. The conveyor belt at Carlton, it's either 6 weeks, he trained this morning, or he's out forever. Creates another opening on our list, doesn't it? So very interesting when you see the issues we've got. You'd imagine now you can lock in a senior big-bodied defender, surely now.
You'd hope so, Pom. We've been calling for it for a while. I reckon they might try and cheat it a little bit. They might go someone that they see as a bit of a swingman, someone who can play forward and defence. I think they're going to want flexibility, which is what Oscar McDonald was supposed to be. Obviously, he's had this crippling back injury the whole time he's been at the Blues. I'm excited to see what they do, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we end up with one more list spot as well. Maybe someone else either takes a step out of the side or gets put back to the LTI. If they're confident that Caleb Marchbank is going to come back and do his thing in the seniors within the next few weeks, then maybe it's a forward ruck that they look at rather than a defender. But that's the big question mark, isn't it? Whether Caleb Marchbank can get back into this senior side. Because if he can, all of a sudden it's a very different looking outfit. Then eventually you have Mitch McGovern come back. So, it's just going to be, do they back themselves in to get Caleb Marchbank up and about?
Well, I mean, he went well the other week in VFL, and I'd say he's probably a shoe-in after the bye, I would say. I reckon they'll take that easy, particularly with the Charlie Curnow approach. They've nailed that. The longer we can put it off and get them legs going a little bit, because I don't think we can afford, so I think everyone agrees with me, we can't afford another injury down there. Talking about backmen who are a little bit tall, Bretsky, Blakey will trouble us. Blakey obviously been playing a lot down the back this year, and he's become a really important pillar. For those who are interested in the scout report that went up this afternoon, I talked quite in depth about his ability of Lloyd, him and Parker interlinking in their kicking game and how they play a very patient game. He's going to be some guy that if he gets his hands on the ball, he has an uncanny ability of finding Mills and Kennedy through that corridor to get them transitioning. He's going to be an interesting little matchup for Carlton, isn't he? Because he's kind of an awkward customer, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's good in the air. He's bigger than you think, but he's also fast. I actually have no idea who might go to him. Is the natural matchup feel like it's a Jack Silvani or something like that? It's a really tough one, a really interesting. Or maybe they keep Kemp in the side, play him forward, and just say, annoy this guy all day, because he's been integral to their team this year. And over the last couple of years, we've seen Sydney's reliance on Jake Lloyd has really dipped, and it's due to the emergence of a few guys, and Blakey being the key one this year. Another guy that I'm watching out for is Chad Warner, who's been absolutely beasting this year for Sydney. Can play through the midfield, can go into attack. He's one of those players that, I think will step up against the Blues. Someone always seems to step up who you don't expect, and I think he's the one who's going to have a big game against us.
Yeah, Big Chad. He's been someone who's kind of come from nowhere, hasn't he? And he's really benefited from that hole that Hewitt's left as well. He plays that kind of just behind the pack. You notice he gets a lot of cheap disposals because he kind of plays that Sam Mitchell role almost, just away from the contest, pinging passes. It's going to be an interesting game, this one, because I really think Carlton will thank their lucky stars that they are at Marvel for this one. Like we say, it's a little bit narrower, and you look at what Voss has really perfected in the last 3 weeks. He's really taken to leaving the wings open and flooding the corridor and channeling the ball down one area, working twofold for Carlton. One, it buys us a bit of time to get back, but two, they've been layering traps really well. And one of them traps that worked brilliantly was old mate Tex Walker. And I think here, as we've got 3 minutes till teams come out, Buddy Franklin plays very similar to Tex in the way that he runs from deep. He takes a lot of his marks on the 60 arc, which is where that trap we laid with TDK and Doc on the wing and Wheater and Sard coming from real deep up the 50, pushing him into that 60 arc, allowing Young to be that stopper. Carlton have got previous with this, and I think that could be a key matchup. What do you think about Young in this one? I think Young and Wheater will have a nice little day with this kicking style into Buddy.
Well, yeah, there's only 2 ways to beat Buddy. The one is, as you've just laid it out, you lay your trap, you rotate guys through, you try and force hard kicks, make his day living hell. And the other one is bringing Alex Silvani out of retirement to play on him. So I'm not sure what the rules are around that one. So it'll be a combination job, a handoff job between Wiedering and Young. And, they're starting to blossom together the more they play together as well. And I think this will be a really good test. But he's obviously not the damaging monster that he once was against us, but he does always find a way to hurt us on the scoreboard. So it'll be a really interesting little clash, and hopefully Wiedering and Young can just annoy him enough, bring the ball to the ground enough that Adam Sard, Fireman Sard, as the Prendergast boys call him, can clean up all the little patch fires on the ground, because he's just been amazing again last week. So very exciting to see how that matchup goes. Then you've got Isaac Heaney to contend with. They're a really dangerous side. In a lot of ways, they're as exciting as we are, Pom, and they've got a lot of young guns coming through just like we do. So I think it's going to be match of the round. Big Friday night at Marvel, as you said. It's going to be – the Marvel does help, and I'm excited for it.
Mate, I'm with you. And Jai backs us up here. Centre-half back line needs to intercept and cut the delivery to Buddy. You just mentioned Heaney. Peter V, good day to you, my friend. How are you? Hopefully Stocker and Plough can keep Parker and Heaney to less than 3 goals each. Heaney is that interesting one. And I want to touch on last week, we saw another Vossi masterclass. You saw Sam Walsh suddenly appear in the halfback line for large periods of late in the second, and particularly in the third and the fourth. And he floated up forward quite a bit, as being documented by a lot of the fantasy podcasts, because they're trying to get him dual position, which is a rip-off. But he did spend 12% off half back, particularly when Williams went to ground. And you did see something with Sam Bean there. It got him into the game very, very, very well. But also, it suddenly became a real cornerstone of attack. And it's interesting, last week, more points were scored in turnover than anywhere in the ground, particularly defensive half turnovers. And 6 transitions were started by Walsh. So that is a new string to the bow we haven't seen. And I think it'll be very interesting to see if that repeats, because Heaney is a danger. And we know Mills floats through there. A few players float through there. I reckon there's going to be a lot of ball in that area.
Yeah, the Walsh thing's really interesting. Going into the year, you would have thought that that'd be the George Hewitt role, because he's done that in the past for Sydney, where he dropped back and provided that outlet in defence. And I mean, Sam Walsh, I had him very highly in my votes on the weekend. I thought he was super influential, not just for the goals, but for all the work, all the scoring opportunities that he generated around the ground. So it's going to be exciting, a really exciting clash. He's probably a bit more creative through kicking and through speed than Liam Stocker is, who's coming in. He'll take a really defensive role, I'd imagine, and that's why I'm excited to see him and Plowman in the same side, because I think if Plowman can take the creativity he took last week and the previous game he played for us into this week, I think he's going to start proving a few haters wrong, especially with Williams going down with injury. You need someone to step up outside of just Doc and Adam Saad doing it the whole time.
Mate, spot on. And we're just waiting for the teams to be finalised. But Matty boy, how many goals is Jack Nooms kicking this week? Go, Jack in the box, my boy. I reckon if he's in the team, I reckon he'll kick us one. Lock him in for one.
If he's in the team, first goal, Jack Nooms. He'll kick it from outside 50, not make the distance, and it'll dribble through. That's my prediction for first goal.
Mate, spot on. Mitchell Cook, whichever team's better at the contest will win. And it's interesting because Carlton are probably at the second most direct side, but they also have the lowest. Here's a little pom stat for you. You all like it. We have the lowest kick to handball ratio in the AFL around stoppages and clearances. It's almost 1.1, meaning that we handball an awful lot. Where you look at this side, Sydney, they're on the higher end of the scale. They're about 1.9. They really look to gain a territory game, as most kicking sides do. I think this will be a really interesting matchup, because the only way Carlton can win this really is by being quick, is by being really taking it to them. And with the short ball movement from Carlton, I think that's a risk for Sydney. They probably have the advantage in the ruck, but Carlton have shown this year we don't need ruck advantage to dominate in the centre. So what's everyone's thoughts in the audience, and what about you guys?
Yeah, I think we don't necessarily have to win the ruck duels to win the contest in the midfield. We just need, George Hewitt, Sam Walsh, whoever's in there at the time, extracting the ball. And we move by hands out the back, and you can very, very quickly find direct ways to goal. So as long as we can, they're not absolutely dominating the ruck and, keeping the ball out really wide like Jared Witts did against Gold Coast. If it's a contest in the midfield and Cripper's getting the ball, they're going to find guys like Sam Doherty at the back. That's when that kicking injection comes in off the back of the pack, and that's where we score our goals from, inside 50. So I'm not too stressed about the ruck contest, but we just need to be hard at it, be first to the ball, like we have been pretty much all year.
It's going to be an interesting one, because obviously TDK's got a big job today, and it's really interesting when you watch Laddams and Hickey play together, because Hickey genuinely floats very late in the forward line, particularly when Laddams is deployed as that floating forward. So you actually see them play effectively a very tall forward line. And that is going to be something that TDK probably hasn't experienced this year on his own. Just 2 ruckmen who are genuine ruckmen in their own right. So we're still waiting for the teams. No announcement yet. But how do you think, and you guys in the audience, how's TDK going to handle this? If you were the coach, what would you look for?
It's an interesting one, because TDK's definitely been outperforming sort of what he has previously done, and we've spoken to him about him a lot on this show. So kudos to him. He's been playing much better than I anticipated. I did have some slight concerns against GWS when essentially Paddy Cripps said, "Get the hell out of the ruck and just let me put a body in there." That's a slight worry to me. So if Hickey starts getting on top, and TDK doesn't start taking the front position, I find that he comes out of the contest when he doesn't take the front position. When he's playing from behind, he gives away free kicks. So I think it's mental more than anything for him. He just needs to make sure his positioning's right and he's creating a contest. If he's getting caught behind a Hickey, then he's not going to get his hands to the ball. So look, it's as I said, I think we can still win even if TDK doesn't dominate in the ruck. But geez, I'd love him to just remain focused, play in front, bring the ball to ground, do your job. And then there was opportunities on the weekend, though, to his credit, where he did generate some clearances himself, and it's those flashes that are the exciting ones. So, but you are right. He hasn't come up against two genuine, proper ruckmen. He's always come up against like a traditional ruckman and a part-timer. It's going to be really tough for him, Pom.
Yeah, well, the teams are officially in. Kemp, Noons, Williams are out. Stocker and Young coming in. And Pom guessed correctly, Rowbottom is out. And the legend that is Colin O'Riordan comes in. So I'll go through the lines for you so you know. And as usual, I will write them down at the bottom. But we've got Lewis Young, Jacob Wheater in Stocker, Nick Newman, Plowman, Sard, O'Brien, Cripps, Walsh, Motlop, Kerno, Durden, Owis, Silvani, Fisher, DeConing, Kennedy and Hewitt. And on the bench, Cottrell, Doherty, Chera and Carroll, with the emergency to be one of Kent, Boyd, Setfield and Dow. So everyone in the audience, what do you make of that? And your initial thoughts?
No, I'm not shocked. Not shocked. No super surprising moves there. You could have probably justified, I know he didn't play super well, you probably could have justified Kemp being in for his tall versatility, but we'll see what they do with the medical sub there. But yeah, I think Cottrell, I still think Jack Nunes is a better player than Matt Cottrell, but Matt Cottrell clearly has the pace, and I think that's what they're going to try and use to win this game. I think, as you said before, they're going to try and move quickly. Liam Stocker comes in to do the defensive role that Williams has done a few times this year. Maybe he goes to Heaney. That'll be an interesting to watch. Him and Plough will certainly spend time on him together. And then Young comes in, as he should. I'm glad he's healthy enough to be playing, and will look a lot better for it defensively with him in the side. Him and Wiedering work really well together. What are you excited to see, Pom?
Oh, I'm very excited to see that side, actually. I think they've gone the right way. I do think that, for me, I don't think there's any argument, in my opinion, of playing Kemp. I think Stocker and Wiedering with Plowman is more than enough for me with them changes. And I think that Carroll, he deserves another go anyway, because I think everyone's looked way too much at the stats. Like, you actually look at his running numbers. He was one of the top runners in the team that week. And it was a very O'Brien game 2 years ago where he wasn't quite found, but his running patterns were good. I think it's very harsh. Some people have said he was injured. Some people say he was rubbish. I think he was good. But I do think that Stocker, for me, is the antichrist of a Heaney and a Papley. If you watch what Sydney do, and there was a Sydney commenter, sorry, I didn't put your comment up, but he talked about their kicking, their stoppage and their clearance isn't their highlights. They're kicking the death by 1,000 cuts. As we touched on at the start of the show, you actually see them bring the ball to ground a lot as well with Laddams and Hickey when they were in the forward line. And I think Stocker is king. Even though he had 7 touches last time he played, 6 of them touches were deliverance to get them outside of 50 and hit running targets like Durden, like Motlop this week. And I think Cottrell, I think he deserves a chance based on what he's done. I think if he can just bring that very high half-forward running patterns, that helps Carlton out. And I think Motlop definitely deserves another go for me. I think he was very good. And I think that's a better balanced side. I feel more confident with TDK having Young there, because I think that's what was a big issue last week. So I suppose with that being said, everyone's got the team. So have you. Predictions?
Well, normally this is where I guarantee a 70-point win, isn't it? Look, I think it'll be a really high-scoring affair for both sides. I've only tipped us wrong once this year, Pom, but I did in my projections at the start of the year have us at 7-2 going into the 10th round of the season. I'm going to say at Marvel we win by 11 points. I think it's going to be a really tough game, but Pom, I think we're just a legitimate football side now. It's not hoping and praying that we're going to win games. I think we're good enough.
Mate, I'm with you. And I think if you actually look at Sydney, a lot has been made out of Carlton's run. Sydney have had just an easier run as Carlton, and so has Geelong. Geelong have actually played worse teams based on last year than this year, and Carlton have won games. So I think, for me, I don't believe this panic for me at the moment. And I think moving into this game, I look at what they do, and all they can do is kick. And I think Gold Coast and Brisbane and the Doggies showed the mantra, particularly the Doggies. Carlton are a very Doggies side in the terms of that forward third of the ground. I think Carlton will win this one. And you know what? I might guarantee it. I guarantee a 20-plus win. The Blues are fucking back, baby. 20-point win. And good luck to you, Supercoach Swan. I've seen your comments. Best of luck, mate. I hope it's a good game. But I really do think it's a different enemy now. Different enemy. These boys are switched on. They have a system. And I'll tell you what, last week, everyone was panicking about GWS. Fuck GWS. You know what I mean? And Sydney, for me, I'm going to put this out there. Very overrated, Sydney. That kicking style is good, but they've only got one avenue for me. And I think our pressure has been exemplary. And the fact, the media won't talk about it, but I fucking will. 22% increase in the last 3 weeks from scores in turnover and forced turnover. Voss knows what he's doing. That corridor will be packed, narrow ground. There is opportunity to turn over and hurt these fuckers. So I think Carlton will be up for this. And we've got a bye technically next week because it's Collingwood, isn't it?
Oh, fuck Collingwood. That's going to be a fun game. I hope we smash that by 730 points.
We will.
I'm excited, Pom. I'm with you. I'm really pumped for this game tomorrow night. If you're interested, you can head to my Twitter at LecDog on Twitter. I put up a thing, Pom. You saw the numbers, the inside 50 numbers and the allowing inside 50 numbers since the start of the rebuild compared to this year. We are a different team. Our midfield's much better. Our structure is much better. The new game plan was built for these type of clashes, these type of Friday night sort of top 4 clashes. It's going to be an exciting one, and I think we're going to stand up.
Mate, I do, and pretty much everyone in the audience, but a stray Collingwood fan, Kev, who I think he might have made a mistake. I think he means Carlton next week by 16 goals, which I agree with. I think Carlton will win by 72 versus Collingwood. I think it is, but the general consensus is Carlton can win. I think this is going to be, like we say, style makes fights. Like you say, check LecDog out. LecDog's Twitter is here. I will put it up again. You can check the gorgeous LecDog out on @LecDog on Twitter. It's a very informative thing, very fantasy based. And he's also on the Jock Reynolds podcast, which is basically like the blueprint of all things fantasy. LecDog is regarded as the Jesus Christ of fantasy football. And you can find me on anything if you type in @Pommy and Oz. My pretty dulcet tones are pretty much everywhere at the moment. I'm like an early noughties Kim Kardashian. I'm on everything. We will see you all next week, though. But until then, go Blues. Come and see me tomorrow night. I'll be drinking beers. It's Friday, so I will be having a few beers. So it will be an X-rated watch along. We'll see you next week. Go Blues. Much love.
Go Blues.